Who needs to work out when you have this? Hey everyone, it's Emily Fox. Today's video is going to be all about book series that I need to finish because I used to be absolutely terrible at finishing book series, and I've been improving because I had no choice, and I made that a big goal for 2 of the past years. Not the one right now, but the last 2. I was trying to finish at least 10 book series or give up on them. You know, you read the first one, you try the second one and realize not for me, which is also fine because I realized I was in the middle of like, I don't even know, at least 50 series. It was ridiculous. Like in the 1 year I had started like 30 but finished 1. Like, I don't want that to be my life. So I wanted to do a list to kind of talk about the ones that I'm looking forward to reading the most, finishing the most. So you can let me know which ones I should prioritize this year, because it's not officially a reading goal, but at the same time I don't want to go back to my bad habits. So let me list the ones I really want to finish. I'm going to start with the ones that are not fantasy because let's be real, most of them are fantasy. Okay, the first one is one of my all-time favorite series, easily, and it is out of my comfort zone technically because it's more contemporary literary fiction, maybe a little historical fiction, and it is the Neapolitan series. The first book is My Brilliant Friend. I have been raving about it. It's a quartet, so I only have the last book to read. Why did I not finish it? I've been reading the series. This is going to be my 3rd summer, I think, because it screams summer to me, but also just I don't want it to end. I don't feel like that very often about book series, and this one, it's a struggle. I even started it, put it down because I wasn't ready. Listen, so much happens in here. This series is about so much. It starts with the end. You have these 2 women, you know, they've been friends their whole life, and one of them kind of disappears. She's always been kind of emotionally unavailable, and their friendship, you can see it's been very complex. So the ones that stay decides to write their friendship, their life story, and you go back to them as children, how they became friends, and then the train wreck that is their life. Because, oh my gosh, at the point of the 3rd book, I believe they're now like in their 30s, late 30s, and I know at the end they're in their 60s. So a lot will happen in that last book, a lot of trauma. They both come from a small neighborhood in Italy, and they try to go and get education, not become like their mothers. They still can't help everything, right? A lot happens. I don't want to tell you more. So it's about friendship, but also a lot more political than I expected, a lot of social commentary, and it's just complex and it just grips you. I'm so emotionally invested in everyone. These 2 women are driving me crazy, not gonna lie, but I need to know how it ends, but at the same time, I don't want to know. So this is it. This is definitely one of the ones that I need to finish this summer. I mean, it's summer now, so like, this is going to be the time, but I'm not really ready. The other one, completely different end of the spectrum, is the Part of Your World trilogy. I have read book 1 and 3. I don't know if it really counts as a series, but I'm including it because why not? It's a bunch of romance books, and I know book 1 and 2 are like in the same world, like friends from the same romance. I don't know if the 3rd one is. It was available at the library. I listened to it as an audiobook without realizing that it was now the 3rd one, not the 2nd one. And it's okay. It's okay. I've decided that I'm not going to stress about it. I don't even know how book 1 and 3 were related. It doesn't matter. But yes, I'm adding it in here because I know I can finish that one and it makes me feel better. So this series for sure. Book 2, I know, like I said, that he was like a friend of the couple in the first book that also falls in love. And in the first book, what I liked is that the main male character specifically was emotionally mature, which I feel like I'm not a big romance reader because I can't stand most of these characters, and especially the main male character. They always do something that I think is unforgivable, and like, I will not root for that romance anymore. It's just not going to work. And in this case, I think the female character annoyed me the most. So that's why I decided, okay, I've heard it's the same thing. Well, the emotionally mature male character in book 2, so I will be picking it up. Book 3 was okay, but I'm hopeful for book 2. So I had to include one easy one, okay? The reason I had to do that is because the next one is just scary. Very, very scary. And it is the Stormlight Archive series by Brandon Sanderson. I have read The Way of Kings and Words of Radiance, so book 1 and 2. And now I have to read book 3, which is Oathbringer. I was using the excuse that, oh, book 5 is not coming out anytime soon, blah, 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 and now it's coming out, I believe, at the end of this year. So I have no excuse to not read book 3 and then 4 and then 5. I will probably take my time just because not only are they 1,000 pages, but I don't know when book 6 is coming out. And technically, I believe they're self-contained, so it's like 2 series of 5, but like they're the same series. So I can't really use that excuse. And it's okay. I don't feel like his books tend to end in like big cliffhangers. If anything, you get a lot at the end. So like it's satisfying, but you know, gotta find an excuse to not pick up this one. I feel like I was so, not over fantasy, but I feel like I had been disappointed by a lot of them for a while. So I kind of just went in a different direction, and I feel like I'm back. I'm back. So I will be picking that up maybe this year. Should I? You can choose. But I feel the need to go back. I am very emotionally invested in the series. I cannot wait to see what he does with the magic system and the world building. Every time it's really impressive, but I feel like this is his series. Like, this is the best one. Not gonna lie, I was disappointed with the Skyward series by him. I haven't read the fourth one, and I even have like one short story between 3 and 4 that I haven't read either, and it's not on this list because I don't know if I'm gonna finish it. But this one, absolutely. So yeah, whenever I have the courage of reading 1,000 pages 3 times, I will be continuing the series. But this one for sure will happen, you know, just it's a question of when. I have to do like wrist exercises first. Let's just go ahead and talk about all of his books. I still have not finished the second Mistborn series. I love the first one. I think it was one of the first time on Booktube I had just started doing videos and reading recommendations that I really felt like my brain was blown by a book. I feel like when you get to the end of that first series, like you can see like all the pieces fall into place and realize what he did with the magic system and the world building, and it's just, I've never read anything quite like that. And this is the second series, so it's the same world, but like instead of medieval time, this one is more like Western cowboy pew pew time, and it's more like mystery, murder mystery, with still that magic system that is based on metal. So people that can use these very specific magical powers have to ingest metal and use them in those specific ways. And like guns are now introduced, so like it makes things more complicated. And it's very interesting, but at the same time, even though it's like lighter, funnier, I don't find myself as emotionally invested. So that's why I started it, put it down like so many times. But I need to finish it because eventually the next series is going to come out, because he's planning 4, and like it keeps going up in time in the same world. And again, fascinating, but it needs to happen. So this one I'm clearly a little less excited, but it's the last book, the 4th book in that series, and I know it's going to be brilliant. I just need to get over it. I think the fact that I didn't care for the 3rd book in the Skyward series is really influencing me, but like that one is why sci-fi, these are adult fantasy, so like it's different. Let's continue with the ridiculously famous ones. I feel like whenever you start getting into books or back into books, you have these books, especially fantasy, like the all-time favorite. You must read those, otherwise what are you doing with your life? And I think that's one thing that got me a little burnt on fantasy, because they're not always for you. And sometimes you just are intimidated by the size of that series. The Eye of the World by Robert Jordan. I read the first one. Took me a while to get to it because, again, I had read quite a few that were older, and frankly, the sexism got to me. I just couldn't stand it anymore. But when I finally got around to reading it, at least the first book, it was good. I had no complaints. If anything, I feel like the ending was the weakest part, but the characters were interesting. You have the classic tropes, you know, chosen one, farmer kind of thing. But I was invested. It's a big one, but I feel like it's just, it looks bigger than it is. I couldn't put it down. I was very emotionally invested throughout the vlog that I did on Patreon for the book club. I was so mad at Matt. He's such a doo-doo head, but that's good. That means that you are into the story. So I did read book 1. I enjoyed it, but for some reason, book 2 never really happened. I say that because you can tell. I started it, but I gave up, was it what, 50 pages into it? Chapter 5. I don't know why. I think things were just slow to start. It's probably an excuse, and I was just a little over fantasy at that time. And again, I feel like I'm back, so I think this is going to happen. The fact that it is like a, 14 book series or something, it's scary, especially because whenever you mention this series, everyone will be like, oh, between this and this book, like 6 and 8, it gets boring, but it gets better. Don't tell me that. I'm not going to read 3,000 pages of boring just to get to the ending. That's just crazy. But if I enjoy book 2, I could continue at least to the next one and the next one until it gets boring, and that's okay. But yeah, book 2 needs to happen. I own it. No excuse. So I really want to read it. I feel like I did not make it sound like that, but I want to know what the hype is about, and if I don't like it, it's fine. I just need to make a decision. Do I continue? Do I not? Do I just keep hoarding these 2 books? Like, But yes, these two authors are definitely the most famous one. I know Sanderson finished his series too, so like, I should like the ending, but is it worth reading a million other books first? I don't know. 3 of these series, I have read the first book, enjoyed it, and the third one and last one is coming out this year, I believe. I think this is the most popular one out of the 3, and it is this series, the first book being The Shadow of the Gods, and book 2 being The Hunger of the Gods. I think people like Vikings more than I do, but I did overall really enjoyed it. I feel like the ending was really good and made me want to continue even though I didn't. You have these like giant old gods that kind of disappeared. The magic kind of just undercover a little bit in the first book until, you know, the ending. I'm not going to spoil it, but a lot happens. And it is a brutal, and I mean brutal world. Like, I would be dead. I frankly am impressed anyone makes it to adulthood, because how? But I did enjoy this one, but for some reason I wasn't as emotionally invested as I wanted to. I feel like I heard amazing things, even about the main female character. One of the ones is a woman, and I liked her fine, but again, wasn't invested enough. But I've heard that book 2 is even better. I say that, I still gave it like 4.5 stars. I'm making it sound so dramatic. But I never picked up book 2 because, again, it's huge, and I was like, I don't know, but I've been seeing reviews and everyone is saying that it is amazing. So like, what am I doing with my life? I should pick it up. I own it. I own it. And once again, you have this giant god. Do you see the tiny people? It's the same on the first cover, and like, I think this is really cool. So I think I will start it just based on the magic system, and hopefully I get more emotionally invested, because I don't know if I want to, because it was so brutal. I feel like people die left and right, but... Oh, and like I was mentioning, this one, the third book, is coming out before the end of the year. So I would be able to binge read the whole trilogy, which would be nice. Okay, the next one I really want to read. I don't know why. This one I genuinely don't know why I didn't. And it is this series. I think this is the Burning series. In The Rage of Dragons, I cringe looking at these post-its, please. I need to remove them. I used to use whatever I had until I bought like proper ones, and it looks so much better. But we're just going to do this so you can't see them. This was amazing. I feel like the reviews are a little bit more all over the place with this one, but I love this one. You have, again, some classic tropes of revenge story, reluctant main character, which I feel like not everyone likes, but I feel like it really worked in that specific case. He's really... Someone dies, someone close to him dies, and he's really focused on training and becoming, you know, the best of the best to get his revenge, which, cool. I love the magic system. I feel like I don't really want to tell you anything about it because it is really interesting and definitely my favorite part of it. And you only get kind of a hint. I feel like this one is very much based on like him improving, which I liked. I feel like it worked. And I do have book 2 on my shelf. I bought it because I really wanted to continue. So this is The Fires of Vengeance. Clearly, there's a team here. There are dragons. They weren't a big part of book 1, but you see this big war that is happening, and he's like, you know, preparing to improve. So I'm assuming we're going to get more of this. This one is going to be a quartet, and I don't think there are any dates for book 3 and 4, but if I read book 2, I would be up to date, which I feel like counts. You know, with like not finishing a series, but being up to date makes me feel better. So this one I really want to read. It's on the chunky side, like every fantasy ever, but I'm looking forward to it. Another one that has a third book coming out this year is this series. I read the Jasmine Throne this year. Yeah, and I enjoyed it. Again, an adult fantasy. And I don't own book 2, which is my excuse for not continuing. This one is very different from everything else that I've read. I feel like book 1, there's a lot of like conflict preparing, and I feel like it's going to get epic in book 2. You have a main character. She grew up in like very mysterious circumstances to you, the reader, in the beginning, and she is forced to go help, like be the servant of this princess that is basically locked away in this giant, not really a tower, like a temple. And the magic system is weird and vague. It kind of has disappeared because of this other kingdom that can cure them. Things are just building up in the first book, but like in a really good way. The magic system, you start getting more and more of it throughout the book. And you can see towards the end how everything has been brewing is going to just blow up. So I am invested in this one. I want to continue. My excuse is that I just don't own book 2 yet. It will happen though, because I do want to read more about it. There's possibly also a romance between 2 of the female characters that is building up. And just in general, I feel like this series has a lot of really interesting, complex female characters. They seem really cool. I want to know more, and I need to just get into the habit of like reading them back to back. I don't know when I stopped doing that. I feel like I grew up, I didn't have access that much to the library, so I feel like whenever I would get a book series, I would get the first one, read it, and then, you know, eventually I would be getting the next one and just always finish series back to back, which, why did I stop doing that? I would not be in these circumstances if I had continued. And I believe this is the third series, that third book and final book in that series is coming out this year, so I could just binge read it. This is Black Sun, and this, I feel like I don't hear a lot of people talk about this series. I've only read book 1, once again, but I need to get my hands on book 2 because this is one of the weirdest and most intense fantasy series with book that I've read in a long time. I read this during a challenge where I was reading it in 24 hours, which frankly I don't recommend doing. I regret doing that a little bit because I didn't get to savor it as much. But you have a lot of like political intrigue building up in the first one, and you have giant flying raven. And like a lot happens, but I'm just going to describe to you the first chapter because I feel like it is just so out of hand. It's just ridiculous. So I'm hoping I don't misremember or like I'm missing out any details, but overall you have this woman, she locks herself and like poison her son, and then she just cut off, like cut off lines in his back to create this design, and then she poisoned him and then throws herself down the balcony. Like, this is chapter 1. Like, it gives you an idea. To be fair, this is the most ridiculous portion of the book. Like, it's intense, but afterwards you get more of the story and like you get more of the reasoning behind it. But I really enjoyed it. I just never picked up book 2, and to be fair, I think book 2 was not out. That's going to be my excuse, but at this point book 3 is coming out this year. I might as well continue, so I think I'm going to make it a point to pick up book 2 because that sounds really interesting. I just need to be ready mentally for everything. But yes, if you want to read books that are a little strange but really intense, this deserves more hype, I think. Speaking of strange, one of the weirdest fantasy books I've ever read has to be Vita Nostra. This is a translation. It was written in Russian. The authors are from Ukraine, and they're a couple, and they wrote the weirdest. Technically, it is like a magical school. You could say a little dark academia vibes, but just really weird. So if that's your jam, you need to try this. There are even like little time loops, which is something that I really like reading about. It's a tiny portion, but still worth mentioning. To give you a little bit of context, you have this woman, this young girl, who is on a trip with her mom when this man starts following her and basically forcing her to do these tests to like be accepted into this magical school, which she doesn't want to do. Like, she just has no choice. And things just get increasingly weird. Like, when she gets there, she looks at the students like from second year and they're just strange, and she's like, I don't want to go through all of this, but she has no choice. And yeah, it's a lot. I did have moments throughout that I was like, what the heck am I reading? But I couldn't put it down, and I overall really enjoyed it. This is a 4-book series, and there's only the second one that was translated also in English, so I will be picking that up and continuing, and then whenever, you know, book 3 and 4 are translated, maybe I will want to continue, but I just need to actually attempt to before it's been too long, because I'll forget details, even though I don't think you can remember everything in here, because the magic system is so weird. But I know some of you love weird books, and this is just something else. So if you like magical school, just weird, complex things, I feel like this would be perfect for like the fall too. You just get the dark academia vibes. And yes, this was great. It will not be for everyone, but it was great. Definitely something I will never forget. Speaking of finishing series, this one I have read 2 books, and I have one last one to finish. So like, you can see I'm trying. I'm not just starting series. This is the, I think, Divine Cities series. So you have City of Stairs, and then you have City of Blades. So I have read these 2, and I have City of Miracles left. This series is very different from a lot of fantasies that I've read because it's like a murder mystery in a fantasy world. And the magic system is also like old gods that kind of disappeared, but the focus is definitely on the murder mystery. And book 1 and book 2 are separated by a couple years, and it's like a different character, a different place. So I feel like it's going to be the same thing in the 3rd book. So you are like, they're loosely linked. They make sense together, but at the same time, you don't necessarily have to read them back to back. That's my excuse. But I need to read book 3 because, again, a lot happens in these 2 books, but I want to get the answers as to what's going on with the old gods. Are they dead? Are they not? And this one is about revenge because once again, someone has been assassinated, and listen, a lot of people are dying in here, okay? So it's not shocking that once again it's happening. But yes, it's the last book. Come on, Emily. I owned the whole trilogy before I even started reading it, which I don't do that anymore. But when you buy books used, you can see with the little black dots. When you see them for cheap, you just grab them all. And then it takes you like 3 years, 5 years to actually get to them. But it will happen. I need to. Is the third book the best one? If you've read them, let me know. But yes, definitely something that I would check out if you are into murder mystery and fantasy. I feel like I've been reading more and more of those, and I like it. It's a good mix. I wanted to talk about the book of the Unnamed Midwife. This is one of my all-time favorite post-apocalyptic books. I recommend this so often. I love this so much. It deserves more hype. I don't feel like I see enough people talking about it. It is a lot. But again, I have read probably 20, 30, 40 post-apocalyptic books, and this would be at least top 5. Like, it is a really, really good, if not top 3. Like, I loved it. And there are more books in this series. I believe they're more like companion novels, and there are 3 of them. I do own Booktube. I finally got it. This is the Book of Edda, and it's, again, the same universe, but I think it's a little bit later. But in this storyline, basically a pandemic, sorry, just killed most people. It's especially effective on women, or I should say deadly. I feel like effective sounds a bit, ooh. And especially like babies. So like if you're pregnant, it's obviously dangerous, and it's not really conductive in making anyone survive, really. But like 99% of the people died. So it's very difficult in the first book, and then the second one, it's, you know, whatever the pocket of surviving people that are still mentally healthy-ish are the ones that you follow. So you go through a lot of trauma. I'm assuming it's going to be the same in book 2. I'm not ready, but at the same time I am. I feel like it's been like 2 years since I've read book 1, so I think that book 2 would be really good for me. I'm just waiting probably for the fall, because during the summer I don't want to read things that are too depressing, but I'm really excited for this series. I thought book 2, I had heard like book 1 was a good standalone, which it is. You can just read that and be happy with it. But recently I've been getting more people saying that actually book 2 and 3 are really good too. So I cracked, I got it, it will happen. So while I am still in the middle of a bunch of other series, I think that these are the ones that I'm the most excited for. I feel like the ones that you guys want me to read the most. If I had to choose like a top 3 that I really want to finish, it would be obviously Oathbringer, of course. And then it would be the one I just mentioned because I really want to. And The Burning Quartet, because I really liked book 1 and I just don't want it to be again a thing that I don't finish a series. But book 3 and 4 are not announced yet, so like it makes me a little nervous because I don't like to wait. I do want to know which of these other series. Oh, I am such a liar. How could I forget? I take it back. This is going to be in there too because this is happening like now. So that was the top 4. We're just going to allow it. I want to know, out of all of these other series, which ones do you think I should prioritize? I feel like a lot of you will want to see The Great Hunt, the second book in that series, which valid. Let me know which other ones you want me to review, and I will try to include some of them this year or, you know, in the upcoming months, because I really want to make it a thing to actually finish the series that I start. Now, I want to know, are you good at finishing series? Because I feel like people are really divided. Either you read book series back to back and you just enjoy them throughout, or you're like me and you just start too many and just never finish them, or like it takes you forever to finish them. Like I'm still not over the ones I started 10 years ago. I don't want to be that person, but one day, maybe, I will finish them. I think that's enough. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thumbs up, subscribe. I will be putting more videos on the screen that I recommend you check out, and I will see you in my next video very soon. Bye.